What does it take to become a video game translator? Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. This is episode 5 of the series Specialized on my channel. This series is very close to my heart. I really enjoy making these episodes, so thank you so much for supporting them. This week we talk about video game localization, very highly requested topic on my channel. So now you see we slowly getting into the deep end of specializations. We covered the big ones. Technical is probably missing, but it will come soon. I'm very excited for this episode. I already filmed it with 3 very knowledgeable experts and we could have talked for hours, but I had to cut them off. So make sure to reach out to them. I'm going to put all the links down below. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know which specialization you would like to see next. Enjoy the episode and talk to you next week. Bye-bye. We have today quite a niche topic actually, but still heavily requested in the comments I've seen. That's why we are here today. We talk about game translation or game localization. As always, we have 3 very interesting experts on here, all women today. We have Aurélie, we have Marina and Federica. Thanks so much to all of you for joining me. Yeah, why don't you guys introduce yourself a little bit? Aurélie, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. So, hi everyone, I'm Aurélie. I'm from France and I'm a freelance translator from English to French. I've been working for 8 years. I'm also a game localization teacher at university here in Dijon for about 6 years.
Cool.
And I'm the current IGDA LOCSIG co-chair at the moment, doing everything we can for game localization.
That's amazing, yeah. Very happy to have you on here then. Real expert knowledge. Marina, would you like to continue?
Yeah, sure. I'm an English to Spanish translator. I do specialize in video game localization. I also run a translation company that my mother founded over 20 years ago. And I've been working in game localization for 15 years. That's really dating me back, guys. I'm originally from Argentina, but I live in the US. I actually live in Wisconsin, about 2 hours north of Chicago. So
cool, nice. And Federica?
Yeah, I'm Federica. Hi, I'm Italian, but I've been living in London for the past 11 years now. And I'm currently a senior translator and editor for Square Enix, so in-house translator. And I've been doing in the past 10 years a mix of in-house and freelancing translations. So I've been working both for agencies and just by myself, but always in the video games field.
Really diverse cast today. It's amazing, and especially cool that we have an in-house translator on here. That's the first time ever, so it gives a new perspective, I feel like. But you've also been working as a freelancer as well, right? So you have kind of both perspective. Yeah.
Yes, I've been working a bit as a freelance, but there's always this obstacle of if you work freelance, usually you cannot work in-house and vice versa because there's a lot of NDAs involved, and they don't want competitors to. They don't want their employees to work for competitors. So obviously, if I work for Square Enix, I can't work for freelance agencies.
All right. Now, you are all, as I said, specialized in game localization. Now, what would you say is kind of the background that is needed to go into this specialization? Is it kind of enough if someone is now watching this and thinks, yeah, I'm an avid gamer, that could be cool for me, Marina?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so some background translation. First of all, it's important that you are trained as a translator to do this professionally. I think some specializations that go really well with game localization, anything that's multimedia localization. So for example, if you're a subtitle specialized in subtitlings or creative translations. Literary translations can also be really good. And then there's the big question if you have to be a gamer yourself to localize video games, right? There are some mixed opinions on this. In my view, in order to localize video games, it is important that you understand video games. So it certainly helps if you're a gamer, absolutely. Perhaps you don't have to be a gamer, right now, an active full-time gamer. But ideally, like you were in the past, you understand the game's mechanics, you have been on the gamer's shoes, because it's all about appealing to the gamer, allowing the gamer to have that immersive experience and enjoy the game in their own language. So.
You also, when you talk about this field, you also mention localization all the time, right? Instead of translation. And I noticed that this is kind of common in this specialization. Why would you say, Aurélie, it's so pushed forward that you need localization in gaming and not just translation?
Localization is really the point to adapting the content to your market for, like Marina said, the player experience. So the most obvious choices are like everything which is about puns, about cultural references, put some little reference of like, I don't know, French culture instead of something, but only if it doesn't affect the story, obviously. That's something you have to check. You cannot put whatever you want. You always have to double check to make sure that this little stuff will not have a bigger impact later in the game. Like you cannot mess up with clues, for example. That's a tricky one. I don't know if you girls you worked on game with clues or something, but when you have those with words, especially, and you have to find a solution, like how do you make it work in your own language? That's one kind of like going beyond the translation.
Yeah, sometimes we say that we localize ideas or we localize emotions rather than words, right? Because the main focus is not being faithful to the original as in regular translation, but rather resonating with the target audience and entertaining the target audience. It has a very big emphasis on entertainment.
Exactly, and you need to preserve the player immersion. So obviously you cannot translate something that only an American audience would understand if you're an Italian translator, for example. So that's why we localize, like we adapt the game to the market we're translating for. So we need to be our own, say, market experts, apart from translators. If you want an example, I just have for example, floors. Floors are counted in a different way if you're in the US, if you're in Japan, or if you're in Europe. So if you have like a display in the graphic text, you have the first, the second, and the third floor in a building. The first floor for an American audience would be the ground floor for me. So obviously you need to, contact the developers, maybe try to say, okay, this won't work for our audience, for our European audience. So you need to change the graphics.
Exactly, yeah, and I feel like one of these mistakes, or let's not call it mistakes, but one of these obstacles in other parts of the translation field would probably be less impactful because you feel like, what does it matter, first floor, second floor? But in a game, right, it can be that if you go to the second floor, you won't progress in the game. So it can depend on the whole story, can depend on the things like this. And are you generally quite free in these localization decisions, or do you see yourself always like with every little thing having to go back to the developers or to the agency that you work with? Or do they just trust you that you are the Italian localizer, you know what the target audience needs?
It really depends from the developers. Usually we have a Q&A file, which is very important. So daily we ask thousands of questions to the developers because often we don't have all the context that we need. So if we want to change something like that, for example, the floors, we just tell the developers first, also because it's probably something that they need to do on their side for the graphics. So it's a constant back and forth from us to the developers and vice versa. And yes, generally we have the freedom because they kind of rely on us, obviously because we are the experts for the Italian market, and maybe they're not because they are Japanese developers or US developers or from any other country. I don't know if you have the same feeling, Marina and Aurélie.
Yeah, I think the other thing is sometimes there are some copyright things, like you might want to change a name because it means something different in your language. So it's a good idea to ask about these things, especially regarding proper names in the game. I remember in particular one time I had this character names. It was for a kids game and the character name was Mala. M-A-L-A, which means mean in Spanish or evil, and this was not the case for the character. So it was one of the times where I was like really adamant, like, yeah, you really need to change the name of this character. It means something else in Spanish. It can have, an undesired effect in the target audience. So
we went straight into the technicalities there, and I love it. You're obviously very passionate about this topic, but I want to dial it back a bit. Aurélie, a lot of people are probably watching this and thinking this is something I want to do, right? What do you think is the best steps to go? What should someone do that is thinking about becoming a translator and specifically specializing in game localization?
Well, what I tell my students most of the time is like work on your target language. It's really important because during their translation studies, they are all very focused on mastering 1 or 2 languages until they reach some kind of native level. But I've seen it with, not currently with my own students right now, but students a bit before. Their level in French, for example, was not that good. They would make a lot of mistakes that at their level you shouldn't make anymore unless you're really tired, because we are just humans after all. At the end of the day, you sell your skills into your own language, the way you understand another culture, and you're able to make it sound right in your own language. So that's one really important point. And then be curious, learn about everything you can. If you like me, dive into the dark links of Wikipedia, that's great, I think. Don't let me there. I can spend hours on Wikipedia. It's insane.
Nice.
It's amazing how being a video game translator, like your Google probably will have the weirdest results ever, because you research for absolutely everything from, a war game. So you research all the types of parts of weapons to lawn mowing simulator that just came out on Steam now, and you just research the type of lawn mowers. So obviously you have all the range of any possible topic.
Of course, yeah. That was also another thing I was interested in. Of course, it's all gaming that you do, but I imagine there are also subgenres, and I was wondering if you are specialized within gaming in different gaming subgenres, Marina.
Yeah. You can definitely specialize in specific genres of games. Like the skills for translating and an adventure role-playing game can be very different from the skills that you need for translating like a sports game or a racing game. Really every genre is its own world, and the more familiarized you are with that world, really the better qualified you are to localize it. Some companies would even test you in specific genres in order to work with them.
Do you usually work with game developers or with agencies, or who would your clients be mostly? I guess for Federica, you mostly work with developers, right? Your company. And
yes,
for the
I work for Square Enix,
freelancers?
so mostly all the groups that are within Square Enix. So different, that there are various. There's Square Enix Japan, France. We have something in Canada, so it's all different groups of developers. When I was a freelancer, it was mostly for agencies. Yeah, it was not directly through developers, which is, I think it's more common to work through agencies in this case.
Yeah, mostly agencies. I do work either with other colleagues, like teams. Depends what you want to. If you want to work on some bigger games or something, well, agencies are the best, because you as a solo freelancer, you cannot tackle a game like, I don't know, Elden Ring or something. It would take you so much time to just handle the files.
Just the management of it.
Yeah. Games are very, very big. We don't realize it, but they're really, really big. Even the small ones can go to like thousands of words very quickly.
Like already was saying, indie game developers is also another route where you can work directly with the developers, and I think it's a great opportunity because it feels more like collaboration, creation, when you're working closely with the developer. So that can be a great experience too, but there might need to be a lot more hand-holding in terms of localization, because you need to sort of do more of the management on your side.
Prepare the files, be ready for everything, find out the dialogues are not in order, something, everything is messed up.
It's very common.
Oh my gosh, it's painful. It's so painful.
So another thing I was interested is kind of the workflow that you guys go through. So in a game development, is there a lot of importance on the translation, the localization, or is this kind of an afterthought for developers? Do you see that you usually work like on a polished, finished game, or are you really part of the development?
Depends.
Yeah, depends.
Depends, yeah, probably, right? Depends on the developer as always. Yeah.
Yes.
I think if you're an indie developer, probably you want to experiment, like publishing your game just for maybe an English audience, which is broader. So you first publish it for the English market, and then if you see that it's successful and you have the budget to localize it in other languages, you start with the standard languages. So, for example, FIGS, French, Italian, German, and Spanish, and then you go on with other languages. If you're a bigger company, they usually want the simultaneous release in various countries. So obviously you still work on a game based in development, and that has more disadvantages than advantages. I would say more disadvantages because it's a game that is still in development. So obviously it has problems. You rarely have the build to play along while you're translating, and English or any source gets updated on a daily basis. So you receive updates and updates, which is okay if you have a cat tool to work with. If you don't have a cat tool and you're just working on Excel file, obviously it's very hard.
I was saying is it an afterthought, but maybe it's even better if you already can work on a published or not published but polished game.
Because at least you have the build, because it's already published, so they don't have problems sharing it with you, so you can play along. You don't have problems of context. On the other hand, it's good to be part of development because you feel like you did something to make the game better before it gets published. So
you can flag cultural things too, whereas when the game is already published, there isn't much you can do to avoid those. So when they're in the development phase, it's easier to go back and make changes that could impact certain languages.
Yeah, if they have to touch the code after you started to work on localization and everything is ready, it's very hard. I do have this issue, and I think you too do have this issue in Italian and Spanish. It's the gender, always the gender issue. And you have to tell them that one solution is like duplicating the lines for masculine, feminine, and sometimes something a bit more neutral. So if you do it too late in the localization process, that's hours of work because sometimes the code is not handled well for that.
See, and what would usually be the text type that you're working with? I heard already mentioned MemoQ. So are you just working on normal flows of text, or you're actually kind of having like a WordPress builder within the game? Probably not, right?
Yeah, if you're handling in-game content, usually you will have like really large Excel files with several different columns, and some of the columns might include some context information that are really important to be aware of. So when importing them in the CAT tool, they should be there. But then if you're working, for example, with marketing assets, which a lot of the game localization work that you might do has to do with marketing, so promoting the game and having the game be present in online stores and things like that. So for those types of files, you might get SRT subtitling files, you might get properties files, JSON files, XML files, so they can be a little more complex.
Yeah, and I guess sometimes you have text that is also then turned into spoken, or quite a lot, I guess, into spoken dialogue, right? So, or maybe even both. You have the spoken, but also the on-screen text. So you have to kind of match that as well, right? So you're then also probably playing along, and you're seeing the character, and you're trying to mimic what this person would sound like, what they would say, I imagine, right? So it's kind of a role-playing. Yeah, a role-playing factor coming in as well. Do you have the chance to play along when you translate?
Depends on the client and on the game. Like Federica said, if the game is not ready, you don't have it. Sometimes, even if there is a sort of alpha version or beta version, maybe as a translator, you don't always have access to it. So it's kind of hard. You have to guess what's happening based on the comment. Like Marina said, you have comments sometimes. So it's really important to look at the comments to decipher the ID names, because sometimes they leave clues about what you are translating, who is speaking, for example. But yeah, most of the time it's very hard, and you don't always have the time to have the game on the side and play the game and reach the specific part you want. Because you're working on something, Because
you also need to produce, right? That's always the kind of the trick. I mean, of course, it would be fun to play along and get really immersed in it and spend a lot of time in it. But in the end, you're paid for a certain service, and you're not there to test the game, right? That's someone else's job.
Sometimes some developers will give you access to the game and let you play it, and like give you a certain time to familiarize yourself with the game, and they will pay you hourly for playing the game. So in those cases, I think it really helps.
Yeah.
If you have that scenario, it's an ideal scenario. Like, okay, you get to play the game, you like really understand the dynamics of the game, and then you immerse yourself in the actual work. You need to create that mental image of what's happening. For example, in the cinematics, like who's speaking to whom, how many are there, like all of that you need to create. And I think the more you do this, the more you practice it, the more you realize what you need in order to produce a good quality translation.
I agree. The more expertise you have, the more you're aware of what you need exactly. And you don't just need that Excel file with IDs. Like the string IDs are usually the only thing that come with the lock kit. And you need to ask for characterization. Ideally, you need to ask for designing documents, for a script. The script is crucial if you have dialogues, because most of the time they are divided by speakers. So obviously you don't have the question and answer of the different characters. You have all the strings of one character and then all the strings of another character. You have no idea what they're answering to or they're asking. And yes, I think having a complete lock kit is absolutely crucial.
Okay, we are out of time, unfortunately, but this has been very, very interesting. I think we could talk for hours. Of course, I'm going to put all the links that you would like to share with the audience down below, so they can actually reach out to you and maybe get a bit more information and talk to someone that's already established. And how I always would like to finish my videos is by kind of a word of advice that you would have given to you, Marina, let's say, when was it, 15 years ago, you said, when you started out, that you wish you knew about the localization industry, specifically video games. What would be your word of advice?
Okay, so my word of advice would be that it's important to always act as a consultant to your clients and to your gaming clients, for example, in this specialty. So go beyond translation in this regard and sort of act as a gatekeeper of your target culture, because you will need to flag things that might not work in the translation, such as what we were saying before, some game name or something that can be offensive or inappropriate for the target culture. So it's important to always ask and suggest, but my advice is to always remember that you are the expert in your target language and your target culture. So act as a consultant to your clients in this regard.
Yeah, I would say about the same. Be curious about your own culture also, and ask questions. A lot of them. It doesn't matter. Actually, developers like when you ask questions. So that would be it.
Yeah, because they probably also then get reminded of things they didn't think about.
They've been working on the game for months, for years maybe, so they know it inside out. And you don't. And you see the game from the other side. It's like they are there and you are here, and you don't have the same perspective on the text. So you see things they don't see anymore. That's why it's important to ask.
Great, thank you. And Federica, your words to finish off the video.
I completely agree with Aurélie and Marina. And I would add, no, we don't play for the whole day. So that's not our job, even if you think we do. But no, we mostly work on boring Excel file or CAD tools. It's a great job. But be prepared again to ask questions and work on tons of content without context. And one thing that I would like to tell everyone is always fight to be included in the credits of video game, because it's very rare. Sometimes if you work as a freelancer for agencies, it's the agency that gets credited and not the translators themselves. So in order to have a concrete portfolio, always ask to be credited, because it's your right. You translated the game, it's your creation, so be included. Try to ask to be included as much as you can. I have translated games that I'm really proud of, and I'm not in the credits, and that's a shame, and it's something that I should have done in the past.
Yeah,
very good point. I haven't even thought of this, but it's very important to mention. Okay, this has been incredibly useful for everyone. Thanks to all of you from me and also from the whole community here. It's very appreciated that you took the time to come on the channel. And to all of you at home, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to let me know in the comments which specialization you would like to see next. And I see you next Monday with the next video. Bye-bye.